Peace. This is about Leaving Neverland, the inside production of the acclaimed Michael Jackson documentary. And of course, Michael Jackson had passed away on June 25th, 2009. After that happened, James Safechuck and Wade Robson, they started lying on him, saying that Michael Jackson did this, Michael Jackson did that. And it was all lies coming out of their mouth. Michael Jackson had never, ever did anything wrong to these two alleged victims at all. Veteran British documentarian Dan Reed has witnessed some horrible events over the decades, from death and destruction in Kosovo to Mumbai, but nothing prepared him for the emotional wreckage inflicted by Michael Jackson on the families of two men who accused him of sexually molesting them as children. Well, first of all, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they both have lied on him because they accused Michael Jackson of sexually molesting them, and that was a lie because Michael had never, ever touched them. Michael Jackson was helping kids who are sick. That's what happened. And for Wade Robson and James Safechuck to lie on them, they had no business doing that because it was for the money. And since those two were not his kids, Michael Jackson left all the money to his three children, Paris, Blanket, and Prince. That's who he left the money to. And of course, with Dan Reed, he was not there. He didn't see nothing. So how could he know anything of what happened if he was not there, allegedly, because he wasn't there? After Reed's Leaving Neverland shocked Sundance 2019, the 4-hour documentary forever changed the way we see the late pop star. The Exposed showcased a Hollywood figure who used his fame and power to keep accusers of sexual assault at bay. Billionaire Jackson was acquitted of molesting minors before his death in 2009. Reed's movie disturbingly reveals two of his accusers who did not talk to each other. Disturbing, uncannily similar patterns of serial abuse over many years. Their trauma was so emotionally intense that Sundance had to prepare the world premiere audience by providing crisis counselors on site. So it was after Reed's Leaving Neverland shocked Sundance 2019. It was a 4-part documentary. Of course, I didn't see it because I don't have HBO, so I was out of luck there. It had forever changed the way we see the late pop star. Excuse me. Well, nothing ever happened. That's why they lied on him. They figured, well, we're gonna keep it going. Well, you know what? Between Wade Robson and James Safechuck, those two are gonna get arrested once they find out that he lied, and because they had no business making up lies at all. The Exposed showcased a Hollywood figure who used his fame and power to keep accusers of sexual assault at bay. So they're just using his name to make up all these stories that were not true. And of course, Michael Jackson was a billionaire and was acquitted of molesting minors before his death in 2009. So he was acquitted of all the charges that never happened. That's why these two gentlemen, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they lied. The Jackson estate was really upset about what they said about Michael Jackson. Of course, the documentary was a one-sided show. It was a 3-ring circus out of those two. Emmys 2019, 3 comedy creator stars get serious love. Backed by Film 4, an HBO documentary which aired the 4-hour doc in March, Leaving Neverland focuses narrowly on the experience of two 30-something men, Australian dancer, choreographer Wade Robson in Simi Valley, California, native James Safechuck, who were both befriended and abused by Jackson starting at age 7 and 10, respectively. It is nominated for 5 Primetime Emmys, including Outstanding Directing for a Documentary Nonfiction Program, and Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special, and the ongoing plaudits and resounds of the work is testament to Reed's skills as a filmmaker. So this one-sided show documentary was up for 5 Emmys. It don't deserve it because, alright, come on, really? Wade Robson was from California, James Safechuck, Australian. So they were both 30-something, but one is like 40-something right now, and the other one is still in his 30s. It was nominated for 5 Primetime Emmys, including Outstanding Directing for a Documentary Nonfiction Program and Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special. And all this was a lie because it was a sideshow, a 3-ring circus of these two that did not tell the truth about anything. They never came out and said that he never did this to us, except one time when he was first acquitted. That's the only time they came out and said it. And of course, here's Michael Jackson with bodyguards, I think, and his mother, Catherine, as you can see. Excuse me. And his mom, Catherine. Film Ford executive Daniel Pell first approached Reed, who at first wasn't that interested in the Jackson controversy, but reluctantly took some development money to start researching. That's when he noticed that Wade excuse me. That's I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just having a terrible dry throat day. That's when he noticed that Wade Robson had sued the estate in 2013, which meant he might stand up in court and conceivably go on camera, he said in a phone interview. The more I found out, the more interested I became. I didn't care about exposing bad things about Michael Jackson. It was about getting the real people to tell details. It became an in-depth story about 2 individuals and their families encountering such a famous man and falling under his spell. The terrible thing happened that the children kept secret and only revealed to their parents years later. Child sexual abuse is a phenomenon nobody understands and nobody likes to talk about it. So now we got a Daniel Pell. He first approached Reed, who at first wasn't that interested in the Jackson controversy. But he took some development money to start researching, which was a bad idea because I wouldn't even take nothing from them after all that lies they told. He also found out that when he noticed that Wade Robson had sued the estate in 2013, which meant he might stand up in court and conceivably go on camera. Well, Wade Robson could go on camera all he wants. People are going to see through his lies that he told. He never said after Michael Jackson had passed away, oh, Michael never did anything to me. He just came on, oh, he sexually molested me. Really? Come on. That's a bullcrap lie. He said in a phone interview, the more I find out, the more interested I became. Well, Daniel Pell shouldn't have been interested in at all. I mean, it's really a bad idea to go looking into somebody's past and thinking, oh well, he did this and did that, when it's all lies. He also goes on to say, I didn't care about exposing bad things about Michael Jackson. So he didn't care at all. And of course, the terrible thing happened that the children kept secret and only revealed to their parents years later. Why would children keep anything secret? I mean, I can understand they can, but years later tell your parents after that? If it was allegedly true, which is not, then why didn't they tell the parents the first thing that it happened, when it first happened? Why didn't they say anything back then? Because they lied on this man. They dragging Michael Jackson's legacy. They're tarnishing him and everything. Robson and Safechuck both testified on Jackson's behalf in the first child molestation trial, never admitting to anyone that he had touched them. Alright, so the first time they testified, they said it never happened. And they also said never admitting to anyone that he touched them, because it was a lie. You cannot believe Wade Robson and James Safechuck. They're actors. They lie. Robson also denied any sexual contact by Jackson at the second trial. Only decades later, after the singer's death, when both men were married and had children of their own, did they reveal to their loved ones, when he had stolen from them, not only their childhoods, but their families. How do you steal your childhood and your families? Really? Both of these two men were married at the time, and of course were married and had children of their own, but they did not tell did they reveal to their loved ones they have stolen what Michael Jackson has stolen from them, not only their childhoods but their families? Really? Come on, that's a bullcrap lie. Like other famous pedophiles, he furthered their careers and wooed their mothers while distancing them from their fathers. Both Robson and Safechuck's parents' marriages dissolved under the strain of living so close to Jackson's fame. Well, nothing happened. It was all made up. That's why Wade Robson and James Safechuck were getting paid to say these things about Michael Jackson. They were paid. They said, well, Michael Jackson did this, Michael Jackson did that. And it never happened. That's why these two are actors. You cannot trust them. The central decision Reed made was to focus strictly on the families. I give them a big leading role in the telling of the story, he said, leaving behind tons of research from 2 police investigations, including eyewitnesses' testimony from household staff and personnel at Neverland. So Reed was to focus strictly on the families. So why are you attacking the families? And he also said, I give them a big leading role. Keyword, leading role. That should tell you something. And of course, he said, leaving behind tons of research from 2 police investigations, including eyewitness testimony. Really? So that means other people were getting paid in a leading role. But none of that in the end was new, said Reed, who needed first-hand accounts from people who had direct knowledge of what happened in bedroom. Nothing happened in the bedroom because that was a lie. Michael Jackson had kids staying with him all the time, but he would never, ever hurt a child, ever. Michael Jackson may had a mind of a child, but he would never, ever hurt anybody. Nothing was as powerful, persuasive, or consistent as interlocking the Safechuck and Robson families. We decided the material had a power on its own. We have the little boy in bed with Jackson. We don't need the chambermaid who walked in on Wade with Michael naked. We should all remember that there was no controversy and no dispute about the fact that Michael and James and Wade spend many nights together alone in bed. Michael Jackson never slept in a bed with those two. He was somewhere else in the house sleeping. Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they were in the beds together. Michael Jackson wasn't. And of course, they're going to lie and say, we don't need the chambermaid who walked in on Wade and Michael naked. Why would Michael Jackson be naked with Wade Robson? Really? Come on. It's a bullcrap lie. Of course, they're going to lie and say, we have the little boy in bed with Jackson. How are you going to prove that? There's no proof of it. There's no receipt saying that Michael Jackson was in bed with Wade Robson. For their part, the two men did a lot of thinking before having met me, said Reed, who first talked with their attorneys and pitched the idea and persuaded the two men to each meet with him, no strings, and walk away if they didn't like the smell of me. So, for their part, the two men did a lot of thinking. So if they did a lot of thinking, then why did they have to go and make up all this mess about Michael that was not true? And of course, said Reed, who first talked with their attorneys. So both of the men allegedly talked with their attorneys. And of course, pitched the idea and persuaded the two men to each meet with him. So they had to meet with Reed, obviously. No strings, and walk away if they didn't like the smell of me. Well, I wouldn't like the smell of him either. I would be walking away from him instead of thinking, oh, well, let's make up this story, this and that. No, I would not go anywhere near him at all. They both trusted him and sat for interviews, and when he tried to poke holes in every single thing Robson and Safechuck said, they are credible, he said. Their accounts are so honest, so detailed, unlike what anyone would make up. If you think someone is trying to make up a story to increase their chance that they winning a court case, right, you wouldn't have to drag your mum along. Well, they made up these interviews to get people to believe them, okay? That's what they did. Wade Robson and James Safechuck made up lies about them. That's why they're actors. You cannot trust any of them. This is all the elites, and everything, because and also they are credible. Why is Reed saying they're credible when he wasn't there? Reed was not there. They lied, saying, oh, their accounts are so honest, so detailed. How is it honest and detailed when it's all lies? You cannot trust Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Now remember the key word, leading role. That should tell you something. That means they're actors. They were not telling the truth. They were getting paid to say things that are not true. Reed feels strongly that the two mothers who he grilled mercilessly should not be too harshly judged. People are critical of the mothers, he said. The most immediate reaction is, what the heck were they thinking? Well, why shouldn't the mothers be criticized? I mean, yes, the mothers are involved as well because they help them say these things about Michael that are not true. How could any mother allow their child even one night in the bed of any stranger? But you have to put yourself back in their shoes in a different time. Now, why would a mother allow their child even one night in the bed of any stranger? Come on, really? Their moms are hypocrites too, just like Wade Robson and James Safechuck. This is why they're getting harshly judged, because they're lying. But you have to put yourself back in their shoes at a different time. They were innocent. The lure of wanting Jackson to like them and take advantage of the opportunity for the little boys to learn stuff as children. I don't think the mothers thought anything sexual happened. Wade and James formed an attachment to their abuser. They wanted Michael to come and scoop them up, which is the most horrific thing for parents to hear. I have sympathy for them. Well, I do not have sympathy for Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Even the mothers think they're lying. Of course he's saying, I don't think the mothers thought anything sexual happened. Well, of course nothing happened. Why would somebody go and say, oh, well, he did this and he did that? Really? And of course, they're saying to Michael, they wanted Michael to come and scoop them up, which is the most horrific thing for parents to hear. Michael has never picked up anybody, never picked up any child at all. The movie also gives viewers a first-hand peek into the otherworldly fairy tale Neverland estate, with its elephants, tigers, and chimpanzees, arcades, and amusement park, along with Safechuck's chilling description of all the nooks and crannies where Jackson's sexual abuse took place, including a closet inside a closet. Reed wisely keeps his focus on the families and does not comment on the surrounding details of the Jackson circus. Alright, so Michael Jackson had I kind of say a mini zoo, kind of. You could pretty much say that. Yes, he had tigers, chimpanzees, elephants, giraffes, and whatever wild animals he had on his Neverland ranch. And of course, there was a closet inside a closet. Reed wisely keeps his focus on the family. Now, why would you want to keep an eye on the families for? They're being paid as well, so they could coax Wade Robson and James Safechuck on what to say and what not to say. So if that doesn't tell you something, you better wake the hell up real quick. Throughout, Reed was trying to create the expansive sense of a fairy tale, a journey of wonder, he said. You feel the wonderment with these children and their parents and families as they enter the magical, bewitched space Jackson lived in the place he joking called the enchantment forest. They're going into this place which appears magical out of the darkness, but emerges as something more sinister, like a dystopian fairy tale. So Reed was trying to create the expansive sense of a fairy tale. So he's trying to, you feel the wonderment with these children and their parents and families as they enter the magical, bewitched space Jackson lived in. So that's what they're trying to do. They're really criticizing him for something that he has never done. And of course, Michael Jackson has been innocent the whole time. Nothing happened. And of course, Michael Jackson may have been joking, called the enchantment forest. So what if it is? It's a joke. It's not really an enchantment forest. It's just a joke. It's a made-up thing. Reed kept the two men who had met superficially over the years apart during the filming, and they only met at Sundance. There was no chance for cross-contamination, said Reed. They do echo each other. Jackson had an M.O. of things he liked to do. Alright, so Reed kept the two men. Of course, they superficially over the years apart during the filming. Alright, there was no chance for cross-contamination. Now, what cross-contamination is he talking about? They do echo each other. And of course, Michael Jackson had a lot of things he liked to do. He did a lot of tours. He did a lot of charities. He helped sick children. He's done millions of things, and all of a sudden, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they tarnish his name and drag him through the mud for no reason at all. While they met as children, witnessing other boys who were favored by Jackson, including Macaulay Culkin, who also denied he ever touched him. Safechuck and Robson each filed separate lawsuits with the Jackson estate after coming clean to their parents, which were dismissed due to the statute of limitations in California. Their video testimony is devastating. Reed asked them both to speak simply and directly about what they had been through. Robson was more polished. He had spoken to Matt Lauer on camera before. So, Robson was more polished, huh? Allegedly, huh? Okay. So that means Robson had spoke to Matt Lauer before. But we know the statute of limitations is 8 years of sexual abuse. That is the statute of limitations. So somewhere in between all that, the statute of limitations had ran out. Now they're dragging Macaulay Culkin in the middle of this. Now Macaulay Culkin has never felt anything quite out of ordinary with Michael Jackson at all. Nothing at all. Michael Jackson never touched Macaulay Culkin because that was a lie too. And of course Macaulay Culkin, who also denied he ever touched him. So that means Macaulay Culkin knows that Michael Jackson had never touched them. Macaulay Culkin is the godfather of Michael's 3 children. That's who he is. But other than that, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, those two need to go to jail for a very long time for defamation of Michael's name. That's what they need to do. Both men shared their personal video and photo archives. We see Robson dancing in 1987 at a Brisbane Bad concert at 5 years old. On stage was Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, and Safechuck's interview with the camera crew and Jackson during the same Bad tour. And there's a photo of Jackson walking hand in hand with Safechuck. What in the world was he thinking? Said Reed. Well, first of all, it's none of Reed's business because he was not there. So what does he have? Why does he have to insert himself into something that was none of his business? There was a video and photo archives of Robson dancing in 1987 at a Brisbane Bad concert. And of course, he was 5 years old at the time. And he was on stage with Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder. Safechuck's interview with the camera crew and Jackson during the same Bad tour. And there's a photo of Jackson walking hand in hand with Safechuck. So what's wrong with that? That doesn't mean there was something sexual going on. That doesn't mean nothing. Michael Jackson held a lot of children's hands. Not just his. Because Michael Jackson was helping sick children. He was helping them to get better by letting them stay at his house. At his Neverland ranch. So why is James Reed inserting himself that he had no business of doing? And of course, as you can see here, the three knuckleheads that have lied on Michael Jackson. We see Wade Robson, Dan Reed, and James Safechuck. These are the three men that lied and say, oh, Michael did that. Well, except Dan Reed, because he was a film director. But when you got Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they're the ones that lied on Michael and said, oh, he did this and did that. Really? Come on. Even I know better than this. Michael Jackson would never, ever hurt a child. But Safechuck was publicly revealing his experiences for the first time. It was a different flavor between the two, said Reed. It was the first time he ever sat down in front of a journalist and answered questions. Of course, made up questions that were not true, made up questions that the two men had to answer. And of course, he had to say, but Safechuck was publicly revealing experiences for the first time. What experiences was the first time? Because it wasn't with Michael. You could feel him exploring changes in his mind as stuff was coming to light as we were walking him back. We had to stop several times. He hadn't done that. Therapy. Wade had done a lot. Therapy allowed him to come forward. It was sometimes too intense for James. So where are these alleged paperwork that these two had therapy sessions? Where are those? They're nowhere, because this is all a lie. Even the police report, there was none around, because that was a lie. Why didn't they say something years ago if it was supposedly or allegedly happened? Why didn't they say something back then? Why wait till now to make up these lies and say, oh, Michael did this and Michael did that? Really? Both of them need a good slap in the face. That's what they need. In one powerful scene, he looks at gold jewelry Jackson gave him in exchange for sexual favors. It's hard for me to not blame myself, he tells Reed. Jackson taught him to shelve your feelings and threatened the 7-year-old Robson with years in jail if he ever told. Michael Jackson would never threaten anybody. Michael Jackson has been innocent and always will be innocent. And as for them saying, oh, Michael Jackson bought him jewelry for sexual favors, yeah, okay. Let me know when that ever happens, because it didn't happen. And he's also saying it's hard for me not to blame myself. Well, you know what? He needs to blame himself, because he made up all these lies about Michael Jackson that were not true. At one point, when one of the mothers was refusing to come forward on his behalf, Jackson told her chillingly, I always get what I want. That's a lie too. But Michael would never hurt a child. This is why the mainstream media is twisting words around that are not true. This is why they're lying on Michael Jackson that never happened. That scene was a late pickup more than a year after the main interview in 2017, when Safechuck had mentioned the jewelry box. Reed kept pressing him to go find it. It took him a long time, said Reed. The house was not big. He found it eventually, and we went back to the location for continually, and he sat down and opened this box. So Dan Reed told James Safechuck, or was it Wade Robson, one of them two, to go find the jewelry box. So he found it. And allegedly, they went back to the location for continually and sat down and opened the box. So what was in the box that nobody knows about? Was there something in there that Michael Jackson had put in there for safekeeping, or what? We will never know. It was incredible, just like opening up some kind of physical memory. Literally, his hands started to shake and he became short of breath, overwhelmed by feelings that washed over him from the past, the intensity of emotion when he took out the ring when he got married. So he took out the ring from the jewelry box. Big deal. There's nothing wrong with that. What's the big deal about taking a ring out of a jewelry box? There's nothing wrong with that. When he got married. So really, it's a big deal now with the ring? Come on. The movie is devastating in spelling out the intimate details of years of sexual abuse of children. Both men looked red-faced and teary-eyed after the Sundance screening, and despite protestations from the estate and Jackson's fans, it is impossible to deny. And of course, the Jackson estate, they have been suing HBO for $100 million because the Jackson estate told HBO not to put it on there, and they went against the Jackson's estate request after the Jackson estate told them don't show that on HBO. And of course, HBO didn't listen. They went and did it anyways. So now the Jackson estate is really, really angry about this, because you know what, the more of this comes out, the more Wade Robson and James Safechuck are going to end up in jail, because when people find out that they're lying about Michael, they're going to hate on them for good. I don't think there's anything I need to say to Michael Jackson's fans, except I understand it's hard for them to believe, because in a way, not that long ago, I was in the same position they were in, said Robson at Sundance. Even though it happened to me, I still couldn't believe that what Michael Jackson did was a bad thing until 6 years ago. 6 years ago? Really? Come on. Wade Robson is the biggest liar of them all, right along with James Safechuck. And Wade Robson comes out and said, I don't think there's anything I need to say to Michael Jackson's fans. Yes, he does need to say something, and say, he needs to apologize to the Michael Jackson's fans, saying that I made this all up. He needs to apologize to them, say, I'm sorry, this and that. But with all this narrative going, saying Michael did this and Michael did that, please. And then he goes to say, even though it happened to me, I still couldn't believe that what Michael Jackson did was a bad thing until 6 years ago. Michael Jackson passed away allegedly in 2009. So 6 years ago, how could he have been sexually molested during that time? It wasn't by Michael, that's for sure. So it had to be somebody else. So I understand. We can only accept and understand something when we're ready, and maybe we'll never be ready. So that's their journey. Yeah, their journey is a lie. That's what it's based on. Lies. Even though Leaving Neverland was shown as a 4-hour movie at Sundance, it is not eligible for the Oscar because HBO did not submit it due to the post-OJ Academy documentary rules for making long-form series ineligible. For me, it's a documentary in 2 parts, said Reed. I'd be so thrilled to have been able to get an Oscar, but that ship has sailed. Damn right that ship has sailed, because that fake documentary does not deserve an Oscar at all. It doesn't deserve it. And of course, HBO did not submit it. Of course HBO didn't. Due to the post-OJ Academy documentary thing. I don't know what that was about. Well, the OJ Academy thing, so I don't know anything about that one. The movie started out to be 48 minutes long. It didn't turn out that way, right? He said it was because neither they nor I knew what we were going to find. There was a writ that if I would not believe James and Wade, or didn't find their account genuine, or they were not able to articulate their experience, always a risk, we have to can it and write the whole thing off. Well, they should have wrote the whole thing off because it was not true at all what they were saying. They said that, of course, the movie started out to be 48 minutes long. 48 minutes long of lies on top of lies on top of lies. It was because neither they nor I knew what we were going to find. Find what? There was no police report, no nothing of these two gentlemen being sexually molested. Nothing. That didn't happen. He showed a half-hour reel to HBO, including some interview material, and they commissioned a 2-hour film. He sent them a rough cut that was 15 minutes short of 5 hours. I think less is more, shorter is better, he said. Well, 15 minutes short of 5 hours, I don't know about all that. But it should have never aired on HBO in the first place. And now it's up for 5 nominations. Really? Get flippin' real, because all this was a lie. But it is a story that has to be unfolded in this way over several hours. It's rich and complex. People have to understand why the little boys kept their secret and told no one, not even their mothers. Well, first of all, if it did happen, they should have told their mothers in the first place. But since it didn't happen, they waited years later to make up all these lies about him. That's a hell of a journey. You have to understand the twists and turns. That's why if you watch the film with an open mind, it's hard not to go on the journey with them and understand what took them from being that child who thought Jackson was approaching a god to being the person they are now, still conflicted. Jackson was such an important figure in their lives, gave them a huge amount of attention and love, and yet he was a monster who sexually abused them. It's hard to reconcile this amazing journey they've gone for 3 decades. So now, allegedly, for 3 decades that Michael allegedly sexually molested them. Really? Come on. And of course, you know what, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they're just going to keep getting away with this until somebody catches them in a lie and say, oh, wait, until I pray one day somebody will go up to them and say, look, you have been lying on Michael Jackson for a lot of years. We know that Michael Jackson would never do anything like this to a child. I really pray somebody better go up to them and say all that to him, because what they have done was totally unfair, because it was a one-sided show. They never made it a two-sided show or anything. Everything was one-sided. It was all about Wade Robson and James Safechuck getting the money. That's what they wanted. And they were not going to get any money at all from the Jackson estate, because they don't deserve it. That's what it was all about. Money, money, money. They were paid to lie on Michael Jackson and everything. In the editing room, Reed decided to advance the movie chronically in part 1, trying to balance the two stories. In the end, you have to. Time is our friend, said Reed. It's the gradual unfolding step by step that doesn't let you go. That's the power of it. The only way we can do this. How you gonna do something that it never happened? I mean, editing videos, pieces of videos here and there. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're editing videos here and there. That's what they were doing. They were trying to balance the two stories. No, they wasn't. They were balancing only one story, not two. Part 2 is more thematic. It's about coming to terms. We keep a certain distance, but don't get too close. We create an intimate feel. Throughout, Reed and his editors wove in drone footage and the score, creating a musical envelope, giving us distance, allowing us to collect our thoughts in this claustrophobic narrative. Of course it's claustrophobic narrative because it's a false narrative, what they're doing. And part 2 is more thematic? Really? And it's coming to terms? Yeah, okay. And of course they're going to say we keep a certain distance. Well, they should have kept it a very long distance. I stopped lying on Michael Jackson. Why didn't he talk to Jackson's family or lawyers? Now that's a good question. Why didn't they say anything? Because they knew it was all a lie, and of course the Jacksons were not going to believe them. Simple. First, they are not people who can be trusted to have a completely impartial view. They have a huge interest to protect their relative and no direct knowledge of what happened to these then children. No one was in the bedroom with them. This is an important journalistic point. When a story hinges on an event that took place behind closed doors, you can't have people chipping in with character references. Just because he's a nice guy or famous or writes nice songs doesn't mean he's not a pedophile. He's not a pedophile. It's a lie. Of course, they're going to keep tarnishing his name, keep lying on him, and they're saying no one was in the bedroom with them. Well, James Safechuck and Wade Robson, they were in the bedroom alone. And Michael Jackson was somewhere else in the house. So how is he going to be in the bed with them? And of course, yes, the Jacksons are going to protect their relative. Yes, they have a right to protect their relative because they know Michael way better than anybody else. They know that Michael Jackson is not like that. They know that Wade Robson and James Safechuck are making up all these lies. They know that Michael Jackson would not be guilty of any sexual abuse. Next up, Reed is prepping intensively Tilted Superbug, an ambitious HBO-featured documentary about the antibiotic crisis. It's the end of modern medicine, he said. Because antibiotics are rapidly losing their effectiveness, it's a big story. It saves the world story. Bacteria are adapting, living things, and we soon won't have infection control in hospitals, safe operations, or cancer therapy. If people are aware of the issues, it's at the edge of their peripheral vision. The United Nations, the CDC, and the WHO put it among the top 3 global health emergencies, along with climate change and water shortages. This is right up there. Well, who cares about that? Really, we don't care about the superbug. I mean, we do, but it's an alleged superbug. Obviously, of course, you can find whatever you want about that. I don't care. But Now he's got other projects like this. Really, come on. And he's developing for the BBC a 4-part series on the crisis in tech in Silicon Valley, the other huge story of our age. Well, I don't care. He can do whatever he wants with that, with the Silicon Valley. But when it came to Wade Robson and James Safechuck lying on Michael Jackson for years, that's where I draw the line, because nothing happened. And no, I was not there, in case you dumb trolls get any ideas. They never did anything. Michael has never touched any child ever. Michael was innocent the whole time. And that's why nobody believed Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Nobody believed them. They lied. And Michael Jackson has been innocent all along. Leave your comments below. I am out.